Good morning. It's Laura at McNeely Garden Studios coming to you Tuesday at 10. I hope you're doing great. Today is the first day that I'm coming to you in a season that's not really autumn, but we kind of think of it. So it's the first few days of September. And summer still goes on for another 20 days, right? But everyone's going back to school and everyone is there's a little brisk breeze in the air, and it just kind of gives us a whole new feeling of renewal, a whole new, a way that we can exhale, so to speak. Let me have a drink. We've been holding on and doing all the things, all the summer things and all the activities that you do in hot weather, but now all of a sudden it just feels like a little relief. And I'm glad, because this is one of my favorite flower crowns. But today we're going to be doing kind of a little different type of art, and certainly a different type of discussion. Today we're going to be talking about emails. And I guess we're going to kind of create a little garden for our email monster to live in. I've been developing something that's a little bit different for me. And so I thought I would practice some of that today. And this is one of the things. I still need to add some darkness around the shadows of the underneath side of these flowers, because they're looking up toward a light source, perhaps the sun, perhaps whatever you want, however you interpret it. But I thought that we would start to work on this one while we talked about your email. Excuse me for a moment. So what I did with this is a watercolor background that I simply did wet on wet. And I got the whole paper, not saturated, but damp enough to where you could see a sheen, but you can still see the texture of the paper. And as you put the colors on, the colors begin to blend a little bit. If you have been following me since last summer, tell me in the comments if you recognize this was actually a process painting that I did. Sometimes when I have a lot of things that need a lot of drying time, like I'll do stages of it. And this was the background of another project. And if you recognize it, put it in the comments. So we're going to be using this one to kind of put in, I was sort of thinking these look like zinnias. I had zinnias on my mind. I have decided that I'm not going one more year without a cutting garden. Since I have been just busy doing the things that you've been watching me do, I have not planted a cutting garden. And that means it's not beautiful landscaping necessarily. I like to put my cutting gardens into the landscape, so that when you go decimate an area and cut it for church or whatever you're going to do, I like to grow them, because sometimes when I pay the water bill, I take a little bunch of flowers to City Hall. Sometimes I do them for church. Sometimes I take them to friends who are not well, or whatever. Just, to me, flowers just say I love you, right? I've been thinking about you. And I guess the other half of that story is when I use canned goods. I save the can and I spritz them with paint, usually gold paint, but it could be any kind of paint. And then I have a container I can give my cut garden flowers that recipient doesn't have to return. So that's just been kind of my little love language for a long time. But I have not had the energy to get out there and do it. So zinnias in my area, you have to plant in about March, after the last frost, March, April. And then you poke them in the ground about every 2 weeks, all during the summer, so that you can have blooms all summer. So that is what has been on my mind this long weekend. And I've already got it in my calendar. Don't forget to plant the zinnia seeds, all the times. But that's what inspired this. And the discussion part came along. Hello, Pam. The discussion part came along when I was having a conversation with some friends, and it just kind of randomly came up. What do you do, especially if you run a business, but even in your personal life, what do you do when you look down and realize that your emails have gotten out of control? What do you do? I mean, I have friends that have lots and lots of emails. Good morning, Donna. After that discussion, I went and looked, and I even had more than I thought I had. And sometimes that's from managing several different emails. Good morning, Terry. And I have one for my business. I have one personal. I have another like Gmail that I had to make for my mother to have the things she needed on her iPad. So I have several different emails that I manage. Fortunately, on my phone, I can look at all mailboxes at the same time. Now, if you are on your computer or whatever, sometimes you just can't do that. You have to go to each individual one. But I think you have to think about, well, how did I get in this? So who's one of those friends? So you have to think about how you got in that situation to begin with. And some of it's just apathy. Some of it's you just don't take the time to do it. A lot of it's you don't have a plan. That happens with a lot of things in life. You just don't have a plan. And I noticed that once you get what you consider an overwhelming amount of emails, you pretty much just ignore it. You may look at one or two that you're looking for or whatever, but pretty soon you have just hundreds, maybe thousands of emails. And that is a shame, because that means that you have shot yourself in the foot and you're not using a tool that can be very helpful to you. So I'm going to turn you down here. I do have some notes so that I can give you some facts and figures and a real plan to get those emails back under control, because what they're doing is causing you stress and fatigue and overload. So I'm going to turn you down here, and we're going to kind of doodle on this experiment, and we're going to talk about, pardon me, what to do. So this was kind of my example, and I don't think I'm really even finished with this. So this one is just watercolor paper, and the background was done in watercolor, and then I began with my acrylic Posca pens. And what I love about this, and also used my, what are these? These are alcohol markers. And so what I love about these is, and I'm going to pull it up here so you can see, I did this on purpose. You see those little lines? And you see how nice and blended all this is? So with regular markers, you will get a brush stroke type, look. But with alcohol markers, it kind of heals itself almost. I mean, you can see a mark on there when you first put it down, but then all of a sudden it just blends out. And so this is on, like I said, watercolor paper, plain. So today what I did was I took this background, excuse me, fall is my season of allergies. Everybody has a different one, and everything's starting to fall, literally, and so I get a little frog in my throat. So this one is watercolor, but I put clear, let's see, clear gesso. I saw that. So this one happens to be Liquitex, acrylic medium, clear gesso. And what it does is it gives kind of a tooth to the paper. Hear how this one is kind of just soft and this one is kind of rough. All right. So what I'm interested in, I know that the acrylic paint pens will draw on here, but what I'm interested in is how the alcohol inks will do on it. And this is going to be a little bit bigger project, so I'm going to have to, finish it and post the finished part later. But I'm just going to kind of be doodling on here and coloring in parts of these kind of abstract zinnias that I had in my brain. So, how do you get so many emails in your email? To begin with, you have to think, how old is my email? Have I had it since the beginning of time? And that's fine. But anytime that you get intrigued by an offer, and you give your email, then they start sending you emails. And I can tell you, even I saw this, I looked this up yesterday, even Bill Gates never had more than 40 to 50 emails in his, messages in his email at a time. Now, granted, he probably had, some help, but that is a good Rosetta Stone. And if you start asking for information and you're getting 50 or more emails a day, then that's overwhelming. And we all do it. I mean, we all, just me in my past year, my daughter got married. She had a baby. We've moved, we've looked into different places and different things. And pretty soon, when you start getting emails from all those different places, classes, I've taken courses and whatever, pretty soon you've got a lot of emails coming in. And I just want you to notice, granted, this is on blue and this is on green, but look how much more vibrant this acrylic is. This is the same exact one. See, here it is kind of on a greenish, but see how much more vibrant it is on here? And that's because of the clear gesso, because it's not allowing the pigment to soak into the paper. So anyway, so you have to figure out what the source of the problem is. And I can tell you that so many emails. Now, I looked this weekend, I deleted lots. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I deleted lots of my emails. And I counted on one day, and this was over the holiday weekend, one day I had 80 emails coming in. And I can tell you, that is overwhelming. It leads to stress, burnout, and honestly, decreased productivity. It's just not good for your health, So, and anytime that you're interrupted, you get a message good gracious, I don't have my messages on there that I got an email. If I did, I wouldn't get anything done. But every time you're distracted, every time that you stop your train of thought, it takes a lot of time to get that focus back. And so why in the world would you give your focus to something that could be as insignificant as an email for whatever? Name your whatever. So I know that with me, my guilty pleasures is Pinterest, Plant Snap, and believe it or not, I had a bunch of emails from Belk. But I'll tell you that story in just a minute. So that's coming. But when you start getting overwhelmed like that with your emails, you really lose out. I mean, you run the risk of missing important information and messages, appointments, reminders, deadlines, whatever. And I noticed with mine, now my friends know that I keep a calendar, and I am faithful. I'm religious with my calendar. I look at that thing all the time. So I don't miss my doctor's appointments. I don't really need an email for them to tell me to be there. I'll be there. But for those of us who do depend on things like that, if it's buried in an onslaught of thousands of emails, you're not going to see it because you think to yourself, oh, I can't deal with that today, right? So you don't go look. So the thing of it is, what do you do? What do you do? So you have to, at some point, you have to start with a clean slate. Now, I will tell you that when I look at my emails, I email myself a lot. And this is probably only good information for business owners, but I will email myself like the link for an offer that I'm offering you guys. And that way, when you ask, I have it right there at my fingertips. But so when that comes in, I star it. I put, I make it a priority. I like how this is red next to the pink. So I think I'm going to I'll do this. I think I'll do 2 pink ones together. How about that? So I star it, make it a priority, I guess. And then I tried to, when I get something new, I tried to give it about 10 emails. And if it's something I'm really interested in, like if it's a course that I'm considering taking, or something, and you decide, I really like this, I'm going to go ahead and order it. Well, that's fine. You've addressed that. But if you get 10 emails from that particular source and you haven't purchased it, or you haven't thought to yourself, I really want to stay on top of this, unsubscribe and delete it, because that thing is not doing you any good at all. It's just getting in your way. So with less emails coming in, then you can manage it a little bit better. And what I do is then about once a month, and I told you I put it on my calendar, then I go back and I address those starred emails, the ones that I marked as a priority. Maybe that event has passed and I don't need that link anymore, or I've already gone to the doctor's appointment, or whatever it is. So go ahead and get rid of that once a month, but you have to stay on top of it. This is not something that you can just kind of do willy-nilly whenever you feel like it. It's got to be done. And digital clutter is something, how many, now we're getting off topic and I'm not going to talk about this now, but how many voicemails do you still have in there? I'm not talking about the one from your grandmother that you're worried you're not going to hear from her again, something, but I'm talking about just the ridiculous ones. I asked for help on my website at the end of last week, and oh my gosh, I got upwards to almost 100 messages about that. And I only wanted a local person that I could go have coffee with. So you have to be careful. And now I'm going to have to go through and delete all those. So that was an error on my part. I shouldn't have done that, but that's how we learn, right? And then if it's something that's really turned out to be really hot and I really just kind of need it, I move that to my notes. And just like the voicemails, it's just another place that you're going to have to go purge eventually. So be very careful be very discerning what you put there. And, you know, don't create more work for yourself than you need. So, I'm gonna move this. So this is how the Belk story went. So my daughter was gonna get married. Well, you know what that means. The mother of the bride has to have a dress and all this stuff. And when I went into Belk's looking for my dress, I met this lady that, oh my gosh, she was so nice. And she said, oh, I've got something for you. And she said, if you'll sign up for this Belk's credit card, and you don't know this about me, but I just don't do cards like that. I think they're dangerous. But she said, if you'll sign up for this card, then I can take so much of this off, and I can give you this discount, and I can do this. She got me the best deal on that. I got a couple dresses because I didn't really know what it was in October, so you never know if it's going to be really hot or really cold. So I did get a couple options, but because of it, I had to give my email. Well, I just kept seeing those emails, and I was like, I don't know, there might be something good. I'll check that later, but I didn't star it. And yesterday, when I was finishing up deleting all these things, there were hundreds of emails from just Belk. And I live in a very small town, and I live an hour and a half away from the closest Belk. So it's not the kind of place I'm just going to pop into and use the 10% discount, today. It takes a lot of planning. So that's how you lose control. And it's frustrating. All right. So I'm not going to finish doing all that. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a lighter color here. And since this is kind of the light source here, I'm going to put this lighter color like on the top so that it looks like the light is shining on each petal from that light source. This really adds a huge dimension to your artwork. See that? And we will put a darker pink on the bottom for the shadow. Okay, so here's what you do. This is our little garden for our email monster. I'm probably gonna put some little eyes in here somewhere. But you have to get your email under control. And that means some way, somehow, come to terms with the fact that you don't need all those emails and just start deleting. You will have to kind of pay attention, especially the more recent ones. Just start deleting. If you can't cope with that and you want to take the squirrel approach, This is something my family laughs at me all the time. I said, this is the squirrel approach. If it's just too overwhelming, if squirrels get too many fleas in their nest, they'll just go get a new one. And that is certainly an option with your emails. You can do that. So anyway, get your numbers under control. Create yourself a system that works for you, and promise yourself that you're going to create a boundary and protect yourself against the world and stick to your system. Star the ones that are either important or you just can't get to. It's a long one and it's important. So go ahead and prioritize those. Give new campaigns, like you've asked for this information, about 10 emails or so before you decide to keep or unsubscribe them. And then with less emails coming in, put it on your calendar, and once a month, like I decided I'm going to do it on the first of the month, because that's when I did it, that you're going to go through those starred emails and address them somehow. You're going to do. And so the last thing you have to do is with just about everything in life is to celebrate. I'm going to bring you back up here. Take time to celebrate. Make sure that you have given yourself grace for doing a good job and protected yourself, created a boundary, protected your sanity, and make sure that you keep up with those things and give yourself a little reward, right? I do have a little list there that I thought would be interesting, and it has things like how many emails did you have when you started, how many emails did you miss that you wish you hadn't. Like I found a party invitation that I did end up going to because I got reminded a different way. Let's see, how many did you unsubscribe to? There's a whole list of things, and that will help you celebrate. And if you want that, just let me know. Just write that in the comments, and I'll send it to you. But I will continue working on our little email monster's garden that he's going to live in. And this piece of artwork will remind me, I've got to check my emails and make sure. Oh, hello, Rhea. Listen on my way. Oh, that's good. I hope you have a pleasant day with her. Anyway, so I'm going to finish all this, but I have some really exciting news. Next Tuesday at 10, we're going to be having my birthday celebration. Everything for me happens in September. My businesses have started in September. I started into September, and I had a really exciting year from last September until this September. And you're going to want to find out all those things that happen, and all the lessons that I learned from it. There was some tragedy, and there was some wonderful things, and there was some stuff in between. So make sure that you're here next Tuesday at 10, which is September the 9th, and we'll have a big time, okay? So go look at your emails, do something about it, and send me a message. Tell me how many you had. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next week. Bye.